you sausages. I'm going to hang out for a bit and make this custom character. I'm going to make something strange looking, which isn't very... It needs to walk on two legs because we're going to use the deluxe puppet as a tool to create our custom character. But first let's just sculpt something and I'll show you how to do that. And we'll do that while we're waiting for people to join, because it might take a few minutes. So anyway, let's go into sculpt mode. Now what I'm going to do first is put on the grid, because that will just help me establish, because I'm going to put mirror mode on as well. It will help me establish where the center of the character is. So I'm going to put down one stroke and then we'll start from there. So let's just create something freaky looking. Let me think. I'm going to make some kind of alien. Oh, and let's make it shiny as well. It's all slimy and horrible. Slimy and horrible is always a good place to start. So let's put just a big blob down. That can be its body, right? Then we're going to create some... What we're going to probably do, you can build a single sculpt, and I can show you how to do that too. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to build it in the pieces that we're going to use for the rig, because it'll be quicker. Let's close that. So I'm just going to make a basic model. I'm going to turn off grid mode now because it's annoying me. There we go. And we're going to put that, oops. We don't actually need mirror mode on for the legs either. We're going to give it two legs. But what we're going to do is we're going to not bother with arms, because we don't have to give it arms, which is nice. Now I thought I turned that off. I did. Let's do it again. Because if you have an edit placed in mirror mode, even when you switch off mirror mode, it will retain the mirror qualities. So just using the brush, the shape editor, and then we're going to make some legs. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to good evening, welcome, you're the first to arrive. We're going to make some legs. We're making some legs, so I'm just going to clone that. Looks like a frog actually, doesn't it? I'm going to keep it fairly simple because I don't want to take too long. So let's make the shin calf section. There we go. I will probably make a TheKittyPowers at some point, but not today because it'll take too long and we've only got about an hour. So I'm just going to make a freaky looking thing, and then we'll make a kitty another day. So I'm just cloning the bits and bobs. Now you can use different shapes for this. Like for example, I could actually use my favourite shape, which is the curve. Now, oops, what's going on? Oops, I've lost my thing. Something strange just happened. I think that's my thing over there, look. Whoop. I can delete this as well actually now. So let's I was going to show you the curve tool, wasn't I? There we go. There's the curve tool. Now the curve tool is super cool because you can make bits that are very good for making characters. So what I normally do is just do that. You can even put a little bit of a curve in it. There we go. And then you stamp it in place. And then I can just delete that. And look at that. Shapely. Now let's put a feet on it. Now this is technically its heel, this part here, but we're making a leg which is more like what you'd see on an animal, so like a dog or a horse or something like that. So I'm going to clone this. And I'm going to go into good evening. There's its toes. How are you, Dream Tinder? I guess Enoch Root. I should have paid a bit more attention to your name. I couldn't figure out how to pronounce it. Right, there's a bit of a foot there to join those toes together. And now there's our toes. Okay, so now I'm going to do something sort of, let's give it a pelvis. So let's put the grid back on. In fact, no, we'll use precision move. And this is going to be the pelvis. This is what the legs will connect to. So actually, I need to move these legs a little bit. Turn that off again. Now, bear in mind, I only learnt how to do this today, so please be patient, just in case I might mess something up. But we'll get there in the end. Mike Pang. I'm good, thank you, Dream Tinder. Mike Pang showed me how to do this today. He's a molecule. There we go. So we've got a small pelvis, a big belly. Then we're going to put a chest on there. So let's use the precision move tool again. We're doing this to keep it on the plane, the same plane as the. Obviously, when I'm scaling it, that's what's throwing it off. Let's put grid on. Did you know you can change the size of the grid by holding down L1 and pushing up and down on the D-pad? I want it to be quite a sort of round looking thing. Now this may look quite simplistic, but we can don't forget we can go in after we've rigged this and edit it further. So don't panic. I'm going to make its neck a bit bigger. I'm going to give it a big head. Perhaps a little bit too big. Oh dear. Let's keep that on the grid. We want it to be kind of symmetrical because it will make it better for the biped to animate. Now, I'm not going to give it any arms, but what I am going to do is I'm going to give it a tail because the regular biped doesn't have a tail, and that would be quite useful to show you. How you do that. So let me turn off the grid for a moment, and I'm going to clone this. We don't want too many bits, because it'll take forever to rig it. Let's just check that we've got them all in the right place. It doesn't have to be exactly symmetrical. This is a strange looking creature. Now let's give it, this is a cool tool as well, I'm going to show you now. It's the cutout tool. I'm going to make a little bit of soft blend. So you can see there that that'll be its mouth. So we can probably make its feet a bit bigger, I think. Oh. There we go. Right. Let's I was also going to put some eyeballs on it, so let's do that as well. I don't know if you use, I use the colour tumblers quite a lot because they're very good for just keeping things varied, really. And then we'll do another one. Oops, I should have just let's do shiny, shiny, shiny. Okay. Right. That'll do, won't it? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rig this. Now the reason why I've only done one eye and one leg is because you can fiddle around with all that stuff. To be honest with you, it's not actually as complicated as it looks. It seems to just figure it out for itself because the programmers at Media Market are very, very clever. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to switch off collidable and I'm going to make them all movable. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rig it. So we'll start with the pelvis. Now, I don't know if you've done joints or connectors before. We're going to use ball joints. And then because the pelvis is the center of the rig, that would be the parent of all of them. And when we're editing when we're doing rigging, we always want to switch on X-ray mode, because what that does is it enables us to see the joints when they are inside the objects. Now I've got the grid switched on, but it's quite a fine grid. The reason for that is because when we're moving these parts, we want we want to align these things to the grid, because it just makes for a neater rig basically. So what you can do is when you grab each of these handles, the purple one is the one it's going to rotate around. That's the important one. That's the pivot. When you grab these, you can press triangle whilst you're holding R2 and it will align them to the grid, which will keep them nice and tidy. So now we've connected the belly to the pelvis, and we're going to now connect the belly to the chest, and then we're going to do the chest to the neck. So we click on the parent first. I don't know if you've done the connectors tutorial. And now we've placing on the parent and then the child, because the belly is the parent in this case. Then we'll move that in there. We'll press we'll press triangle while we're grabbing it. Let's move that into sort of the center of the joint so that it's in the right place. And then what I tend to do is point these handles at the previous joint. You can see there, they're pointing towards each other. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference, but it does mean that if you want to put restriction on a joint, they tend to be pointing in the right way. I will put some music on in a little while, but I need to rig this first. Because these are movable, they'll fall apart if I press play. Look. Oh dear. So let's put another ball joint down, connecting the chest to the neck. Now we go side on, because I'm using a DualShock wireless controller. Let's move that down to about there. Center of the joint. Remember to align using triangle. Oh, that joint's a bit off, but that's okay. Grab it, align it with triangle. See, it snaps to the grid when you do that. And then that is the neck connected. And now we're going to connect the neck to the head. We can tart this character up in a little while. I wouldn't worry too much. I'm more concerned with the rigging part of it, because that's the exciting bit. think that's in the right place. Right, let's move that down to about there. Let's move that to the centre of the joint, which is about there. And then let's move this bit to here. Now it's important that all these parts are movable, like I said before, and turn off collidableness, because otherwise when you make your biped go live, it will all sort of like explode and go horrible, because they're all physical and they'll bump into each other. So now we've got the body all jointed up, we're going to connect the leg. So let's do that. Connect the pelvis parent to the leg, and then we'll just put that in there. I forgot to snap it to the grid. There we go. Can you see the little white lines? Those show you the axes of the pivot. So they tell you that it's aligned. So we're going to point this blue one towards the knee, so you can see that it's not to be exact, but it's just, you know, it's nice to keep things tidy. So there's that thigh joint connected to the pelvis. This is why I didn't do arms, because it takes forever. Well, it takes too long to do on a stream anyway. Let's put this joint in the middle of the knee, where we want it to bend from. Maybe a bit more like that. Point this one at the previous joint, more or less. There we go. I'll just move it that way a little bit. There we go, there. That's better. And now we'll move this down to point at where the next joint will be. Now, take it from me, I'm not an expert, but I wanted to share this. I'm not an animator, I'm more of a sculptor by trade, although you wouldn't be able to tell from this rather hastily thrown together creature. But you can see the skeleton starting to take shape now. Now let's put another joint for the heel joint. So this is the calf and this is the heel. So we can kind of just put that there. So Mike very kindly, so I'm building a duck. I did mention a duck on my previous stream, and I'm building a duck for Mr. Powers, because Mr. Powers loves ducks. So I thought I would make him a duck. And this morning, I got to a point last night where I was like, okay, I don't really know how to do this. So this morning I asked Mike if he could help me. Welcome everyone, by the way, that's joined the stream. I asked Mike if he could help me, and he did. And he showed me how to do it. It's not the simplest thing in the world, but that was why I thought it would be nice to show you how to do it. We will go back to the Planet of the Cakes at some point. I'm just going to use L1 and push up on the D-pad, down on the D-pad rather, to just make my grid a little bit smaller, because this joint's quite small and fiddly. So it will make it easier to centre it. And now putting that over there, point that towards the end of the toes. There we go. So there's a leg rigged up and the body's rigged up. Now the biped doesn't traditionally, the deluxe biped, let's get a deluxe biped out so you can see it. Because we are going to use a deluxe biped. Deluxe. Anything with deluxe written on it. Oh, this is quite a big monster I've created. I didn't realise it was so huge. Oh dear. Right, there's our biped. This is our little creature, which isn't that little. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rig up the tail. Hopefully it won't take too long. Connectors, ball joint. Let's do the first segment of the tail. In fact, let's just do all of them in one go, it'll be quicker. Remember, do the parent first and then the child second. And then we're going to move these into position. We'll put them more or less in the center. I learned some very important things as well about rigging. Oh, I need to put them on the axis, don't I? Remember, tap triangle when you're grabbing these handles to align them to the grid. It makes it a lot easier. You can do that with any object when you're grabbing it. If you, what it means is you can slap things down fairly haphazardly and then just align them while you're grabbing them. It makes it a lot quicker if you want to do things neatly. There you go, look. Snap, snap, snap. I'll show you my duck in a little while because it's super cute. It's not finished yet, but it is very cute. Right, the tail doesn't need to be perfect because it's a tail and we're only doing a quick job just to show you. If you wanted to make it super cool, you certainly could. Let's do some connectors on the eyeballs. So I've given it eye stalks because why not? And let's arrange those. We're going to put that in the middle where it meets, where the eye stalk meets the head. That's right. Oh, I think our handles are interfering with one another. How rude. Is that lined up nicely? If you've got any questions, by the way, and it doesn't have to be about rigging, just give me a shout, because I am quite used to teaching people, because my team does the tutorials, in case you didn't know. You can scale down the handles if they get a bit unruly, by the way. By just, when you're grabbing them, just press down on the D-pad. I forgot to align them again. No, but I'm doing it now. And I can hear you all at home going, Kitty's forgotten to align her handles. There we go. I'm not sure how necessary that is. Hello, Imp Space. But I like to keep things tidy. It makes it easier in the long run. There. Now, we're fully rigged, but obviously we're missing... Oh no, we're not. We need to do the mouth. Well, I haven't got to that bit yet, Dream Tender. Patience is a virtue, kitten. Right, we can do the mouth. Now we're going to use a bolt for the mouth. The reason being that we want it only to move in one axis. So I'm going to put that handle in there. Now this purple handle is the important handle. That's the point that the jaw will move around. So let's move it probably around there. That's it. And then we'll move that to about there. There you go. Now hopefully... Oops. Oops. I need to turn off the grid. Let's turn off the grid for a minute. Wow. Wow. So we can also put restrictions on this bolt because we want it to, we don't want it to sort of close too much and it will get stuck inside the head. So let's just make it about there, and that way the mouth won't close anymore because we've got the current angle lined up against one edge of the angle restriction, the limit, and then it will open this much. So if we grab it with the L2 for rotation, see, look, it will just stop there, and then when we shut it, it will stop there. So that's restricted using limits. So there you go. How fabulous is that? So we've got a kind of froggy monster. And now what we're going to do is we're going to clone, we're going to live clone the limbs, and I'll explain why we do that in a second. So we're going to assembly tools, we get the clone tool, and I'm going to select the eyeballs. Now the grid's, is the grid still on? No, it's not. Let's put the grid on. And now I'm going to hold L1, and then I'm going to grab that eye, and it's cloning it. Then I'm going to click L3 to flip it. Now it's fairly symmetrical anyway, but what that does is it's created a live clone. So by using the clone tool with L1, what that means is this live clone, anything I do to this eyeball will be repeated on this one. So it's like anything that changes, all the other live clones will also change live in the scene. Unlike normal clones where you can change one and the rest of them won't change. Does that make sense? If you want more clarity, just let me know. I'm going to turn that down again. So we've now got two eye stalks. Now we're going to do the same thing with the, have we still got the clone tool active? Yes, I have. We're going to select the leg. Select the leg. And we're going to do the same thing. So we've got the grid switched on so that we can keep things. See how that's cloned live? It's, oops, wait a minute. Yes, so I'm shift clone using the clone tool, not the grab tool, the move tool rather. I'm just going to make sure that that is symmetrical. I think it needs to go one notch. Oops, it needs to go one notch that way, but we're still in the clone tool, we don't want that. So now we've made a live clone. Just going to move that one notch to the left. There we go. So now that live clone is created, I'll show you what I mean. So let's burrow into this foot, and we'll use the curve tool. We'll choose a nice creamy colour, and we'll make a claw, and magically, see, let me turn off the grid again. Magically, oh dear, I haven't placed the edit yet, so we won't see anything. Maybe not that big, that claw is a bit excessive, isn't it? A bit vicious looking. Let's just make it a bit more, and also not quite so pointy because it's a bit scary looking. There we go. And now when I stamp that in place, oh, well that hasn't helped, has it? That should have updated. I might have done something wrong. I will remedy that in a second. Well, that didn't work, did it? Let's delete this leg. Do that again. Now I feel rather foolish. Now let's... I told you I wasn't an expert. Let's go back to the clone tool. Hold L1. Wait a minute, I need to turn on the grid again. Oops, I didn't select the right one. The problem with having X-ray switched on is you can accidentally grab. You can accidentally select the joints. Maybe that's what I did wrong. Let's go back to the move tool. There. Hopefully that will help. Let's do something a bit simpler. Let's use the spray paint tool. Put some darker shades. Can you not hear me very well? Why isn't that working? That is very strange. Should be working. Is everyone having trouble hearing me? Or is it me just not talking loudly enough? I do have a tendency to mumble. Anyway. Good. So live cloning didn't seem to work for that, which is a bit of a shame. So it's not essential, but it will make things easier later if you manage to get it working. It worked for me this morning on my duck, so not sure what the issue is there. So I've just connected the new leg to the pelvis because you will need to do that. And then we'll need to connect, let's see if this one worked. That's weird. Why isn't my live clone working? That is strange. I'm going to try that one more time because it's bugging me that it doesn't work. Now, if I do this, L1, that is strange, isn't it? Anyway, that's not the really important bit, but if you are going to do it, try and do the live clone thing and see if it works for you. And I'll show you my duck later once it did work. I'm probably doing something fundamentally wrong. If I find out what it was I was doing wrong, I will come back. Maybe someone on the stream can actually tell me what I did wrong, but do. Recalibrating. Right, now this is our biped. Click the sheep on the right when clone tool is selected. Let's have a look. Oh, that one. Oh, blimey. Thank you, kittens. I thought it was an L1 thing that you could do. Well, you taught me something. Well done. Okay, let's do that again. This, I definitely did it with shift earlier, but I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining it. Right, let's do this. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We have got grid mode. We're flipping. Let's just check that the buttocks are in the right place. I think that's about right. And now, if I burrow into here, look, 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 you can see the black dot on the foot. Can you see that? That's a live clone. Thank goodness for that, you saved my bacon. Alright, let's put that over there. That's about right, that'll do, won't it? Okay, now we've got a strange froggy thing. If we pick it up by the pelvis, oh no, we have to connect our new bits. It's a very long-winded process. That's why I started a little bit early. But it's worth it in the end. Has everyone done all the tutorials? What's your favourite tutorial? Tell me. I think most people really like the first art tutorial where you have to colour in the little garden. Right, are they about the right place? Yeah, that'll do. We have to connect this eyeball with another ball joint. Has anyone else rigged a character yet? I'm glad you like them. There's a lot of hard work went into those tutorials. There we go. Right, let's get on to something more fun, or at least more exciting. So we have, you know, you can scope into a puppet like this, and the purple thing appears. So what we're going to do is we're going to select. We're going to select our puppet. select all the bits. Make sure you've got every one of them. I think that's all of them. Now, temporarily I'm going to group them because oh no, well I'm going to show you how to. It would take me all night to do a walk cycle, and I'm not an animator, but this is cool because you can make any creature and you can rig it using the biped as long as it walks on 2 feet. And then what you can do is what's happening there? Let me turn off X-ray mode for a minute. There we go. Oh, I know you can reshape it, but if you try to reshape the biped into something like this, it would be very... I mean, you can make them more outrageously different. Just wait, it's quite magical. You won't be disappointed. Let me now what we do is we select our group and ungroup it. And now our creature is inside the puppet thing. And now if we press L1 and square on this purple bit, we bring up this puppet thing, and we have to, oops, there we go, bring up this map which shows you your skeleton. So we're going to assign the pelvis, then we're going to, now this is the right thigh, so this is the character's right thigh, left thigh. You can see them lighting up. I did delete the original puppet. If you just delete the pelvis, it will delete the whole thing. Do you want me to undo it and redo it? So there's the puppet. I moved my puppet up so I could access the puppet's pelvis, and then I just press triangle on the puppet pelvis to get rid of it, and then that leaves my puppet inside the puppet. Yes, and then I've selected this puppet and I ungrouped using this button here, the ungroup button, and then you've got all your separate bits again. Then deselect those. And then I opened up the tweak menu with L1 and square on this purple thing. And now we open up this tab here and reattach the bones. This is why I wanted to show you, because it's quite complicated. So the right thigh is the one on the puppet's right. So the right calf is this one, and the right heel is that one, and the right toe is that one. The reason why I did the funny legs is because the regular puppet doesn't have legs like that. This is sort of more like animal legs. And it'll probably look really freaky when I actually make it walk, but the point is you can use the existing puppet to give your custom puppet, belly, there we go, to give you a custom puppet, you know, all the animations that you want. There's the neck, there's the head, and also I wanted to show you, because this has got a tail and eyeball stalks, that you can have those too. Now let's see what happens when we press. Actually, if I just run time, you see all the bits that are new are all floppy, but it's okay, don't panic, kittens, we can deal with this. So what we do is we open up this puppet logic. This is the deluxe puppet logic, and we're going to add some keyframes for these new bits. So let's add a keyframe first. So we go into the animation menu, and we're going, now this is important when you're setting the keyframes, because these are jointed, you don't want to grab them with R2, you want to grab them with L2. If you've got extra limbs, so I just tapped those with L2, and what that's doing is it's storing the rotation in that keyframe. We have to make sure we switch the keyframe on, and what that means is it will hold those in their current position. If you've got more limbs, this is kind of what I'm doing with the tail and the eyes. Now you will have to animate any extra limbs. They won't be animated with the biped. So if you've got anything that's if you've got something that's more than 2 legs, you're going to need to animate it by hand. But this is kind of a shorthand way to animate something custom, which is kind of 2 legs, but it's way too freaky to just use the basic puppet. Because if you try and mess with the proportions of the basic puppet or the deluxe puppet too much, it will break. So you can do this instead. So let me just set the keyframe for the mouth. Actually, I'm going to do the mouth. The mouth is going to be a special thing, so I'm going to do that last. So I'm going to do the tail. So let's just put down another keyframe for the tail. As soon as you put it down, it starts recording. And then again, remember to use L2. You don't need to mess with the weight too much. It kind of makes up the weight by itself. So there's that keyframe, now has the tail's position. We have to switch that on in order to make it active. But what you can do, which is super funny, is you can tweak the keyframe and make it springy. So put it up to about 40% or something. And what that means is that that keyframe is kind of, it's not rigid, so it'll wibble about. No, it's fine, Stadia streamer, but I don't think you need to worry too much about the weight. You only really need to go into that much detail if you're having problems, but otherwise I would just use the defaults and see how you get on. Now what I want to do with the mouth is I want to do something special. So there's the controller logic. What I'm going to do is put 2 keyframes in here. We've got a closed keyframe, which is mouth closed. And then we'll do another keyframe, which is mouth open. Oops. Let me turn off the grid. Why isn't that working? Wait a minute. Let's just check what I've done wrong. Oh, that shouldn't be collidable. Is that collidable? No. Ooh. Why isn't that swinging open? Should be opening on that bolt. That's weird. Delete those and see if that helps. Oh, there we go. Okay, that was me being silly. Let's just put down another couple of keyframes. Tapping L2 and not R2. Make sure you don't click R2. That will mess up your animation. I did that earlier and made my duck go funny. So when I grab with L2, I'm actually going to tilt the controller. There we go. Stop recording. Now what we want to do is we're going to put the mouth. Oh, I'm going to do better than that. So let's have a look. Let's open up the controller sensor. Now R2. So this is mouth closed. Let's just name that. Mouth closed. It's good practice to name your gadgets. And we'll also we need to put down a not gate. Now the reason why we're putting down a not gate is so that when R2 is not being pressed, it means that the mouth will close. And when it is being pressed, the mouth will open. There we go. So now, if I run time, it should... Why isn't that working? Oh, it's probably because I need to actually play the game. So let's try that, shall we? Oh dear. Hello. So now I can control. I could probably make the stiffness on the eyes a bit less ridiculous, but it's quite funny. And also you could, because we've used the puppet, we can tilt the controller to affect the look. Hello. Oh dear. I thought it was quite amusing. Let's go back over here. So we're going to tweak the eyes and make them a little bit less springy. So you could add eyelids and you could animate them in the same way as the mouth, or you could put the eyelids on a randomizer so that it just randomly blinks them. Let's do something fun. because you did say you wanted me to. We can hide everything else, which is paint. No, he's not a happy bunny because he's ugly. Let's give him a nice pink, medium molecule pink mouth. Possibly. So now the eyes are a little bit less ridiculous. Hello. Oh dear. I'm not very happy at all, am I? And the legs are a little bit wonky, but the thing is, once you've got it running, you can fiddle about with that kind of stuff. You could make the body maybe a little bit less rotund. Let's have a go at that. It's because I've been lazy and just used balls, you see. What we can do... I'm glad you found it useful. You know, by the way, if you're using colour, just go into the colour picker and you can pick, using X, the colour of the sculpt that you're sculpting. Only point on its surface and it'll pick up that colour. Now what I'm going to do quickly is just I'm going to just quickly turn up this soft blend. Ooh. You see there, so I'm going to make him a little bit. I'm going to push that body in slightly using soft blend. Soft blend's amazing. Oops. Now his body's less like a ball, his legs won't interfere with it quite so much. So let's play that again. And what we can do now is maybe move the legs, oops. Move the legs apart a little bit so that they don't behave quite so strangely. Oh, and there's more, there's some other cool stuff. Let's just try that one out, see how that looks. I think I need to move in. I need to use... I want to show you something cool. Right, so in the biped interface, I think it is. Oh no, it's in here. If you go in here, you've got all these different bits like jump and run. If I open up the run microchip, you can see here running pose. Now if I want him to look different when he's running, I can edit this keyframe and move the creature like that so that it's wait a minute, I'm going to move the pelvis like that, and then I'm going to use L2 to rotate things, because L2 is what you use to rotate. It's not a good idea to use R2 to move your limbs, because it confuses things a bit. Let me just move its feet together. Oops. Trying to move its feet together. What's it doing? Not quite sure what it's doing. Oh dear. Anyway, you can give it a different default pose for when it's running as opposed to when it's walking. Just like you would normally pose a biped. Once it's in the biped thing, you can do that. Although I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong here. I shall have to speak to Mike. Oh, there we go. I was grabbing the wrong bit. Well, that's alright, I like to share the love. Because the thing is, the tutorials take a long time to make. So, it's actually like, I can help ease your struggles by just doing some little lessons in the game. There we go. I just want to make him slightly different when he's running. And then you'll see the difference. So let's put his head down a bit, so it's like that. And tilt the eyes up. Oops. And then we'll move the tail down. There. Let's try that. It'll probably be ridiculous, but at this stage, see, look, now he leans forward when he's running. If he walks, he does that, and if he runs, he does that. Right, let's have a look at what you're asking me. I'm not an expert on this stuff. I'm just showing you the amateurs thing, but I'll do my best to help. Now, what is the problem here? There was already a puppet interface next to the controller interface. Oh yes, it's a whole world of creativity, Purple Pegasus. Next to the control, yeah, this puppet interface here. Why is there another one in each of the animation chips? Good question. The reason being because they're separated out, so each interface is using a different. Each interface seems to me to be utilizing. Oh, that one's got on ground. So what these interfaces do is they assign different poses to different positions. So this one's running strength makes the running pose active, whereas this one isn't using its running strength, that's walking strength. So basically what it's doing is, it's using multiple biped gadgets to separate out the different modes of the character. So if we open the jump one, for example, move that over there, there's another biped thing, but this one's wired up to jumping ascent, jumping peak, and jumping descent. What that means is that when the character is jumping up, it uses that pose. Then when it reaches the peak of its jump, it uses this pose, which these are all keyframes. And when it's descending from its peak, it uses this pose. So by editing those three poses, you can edit the look of your character when it's jumping. The same for when it's running. Now obviously I've made a bit of a pig's ear of our running pose, but that's essentially how that works. Oops. So for example, if I edit that keyframe, I sort out his pose a bit, so it's a bit more symmetrical, he might run slightly less weirdly. Ooh. See, when he's running, really, he should be on his tiptoes. So let's do that. Oops. That's better. Can you tell I'm not an animator, kittens? Let's try that. It'll probably look ridiculous, but it's worth a try. Because he's completely not symmetrical anymore. Excuse me. Well, yes, that is one way to look at it, Stadia Stranger. Oh no, it can't cope. Look at that. Oh dear. Now, what you can do as well is when you are doing edits to the thingies, you can actually, wait a minute, you can go in here and you can get it to show you what it looks like when it's running. Now obviously we've messed it up, so we want to not mess it up. So let's delete all that keyframe nonsense, which is in here. That's it. Oh, it's trying to run now. See that? So now, because we're running time, it will demo, because we've got this little quick edit thing down here, we can show the different modes: walking, running, Now we haven't set any jump keyframes, but you could try that here. So you can just see in real time while you're fiddling with these numbers, because you can actually also, let me just let's just remove that if I can, that's it. We're learning, live learning. Look, even I'm learning now. I've never done this before. Oops. That wasn't right, was it? What have I done to his tail? That's better. I'm just going to lift the pelvis up. See what difference that makes. That's better. So now he stands up when he's running. We could mess about with the jump, but I'm not going to do that now. I think I've showed you enough. I've bombarded you with enough information. But we have created a ridiculous character who kind of stands up a bit when he's running. He's got a wiggly tail. And he talks. Hello! Let me just change something quickly. You know that in the controller sensor you've got the built-in camera, which is controlled on this tab. What we can do is move the camera away, because he's quite large. We'll double the distance of the camera. Aperture, we'll leave that. Oh, actually no, let's put that up a bit, it would be cool. Let's give it a platforming shadow. What that does, if you're making a platform game, it's really handy to use the platforming shadow, because what that means is that whatever your lighting is like, it will always cast a shadow directly downwards, so that when people are platforming they can see where they're going to land, which is super handy. So you think I should move that back, do you? Like that. So now I've got a better camera. I want to put some ground in. Let's just put a bit of ground in. I might have some actually. No, let's just build some. Be easier. Let's put some ground in. We're going to make it... What colour should we do the grass? Let's do just brown, shall we? Brown. Make it a bit flatter. Actually, let's just put it in stamp shape, because then you can do soft blend. Yay, soft blend. And then you can make freaky looking landscapes. Let me turn off the floor and move my camera out a bit. Remember, all this is done with the DualShock, so forgive me if it's a bit rudimentary. When in doubt, make it bigger. Let's just make the impasto, turn that up. Don't need that. Ruffle it up a bit. We can also make the flex furry. I love that. Don't you love that? Freaking love that. Let's go to the style tool. Turn the impasto a bit more. And then we'll do effects mode. Put a little bit of wave on there. Is it waving? Maybe a bit less wave. Keep it subtle. Now we should find that when we possess the creature, now we were a bit further away, that's it. Hello, my name's Brian and I'm a monster. We could make a game out of this with our very own character. Anyway, I'm going to go and watch Game of Thrones now. I hope this was helpful. Now you know how to put tails on your characters at least, and bobbly eyes, and you can make their mouths move just like that. Isn't that amazing? Yay! If you need to ask any other questions, just ask me on Twitter, or go to the user feedback forum, which you can find via indreams.me. Don't forget you can follow me on Twitter, Ms. Kitty Powers, MS Kitty Powers. I will do some more streams, and then I will, yes, just follow me there, like me on Facebook and all that nonsense, and keep an eye on the Dreams PS4. And what I'll do is I'll make this scene remixable so you guys can play with it. I would love to see what you can do with this strange creation. Alright, kittens, and I'll see you soon. Bye!